welcome everyone to Here Presents. Thank you for joining us today. We're here with artist and educator Tommy Ka and photographer, photo editor, fragrance day Elizabeth Renstrom. And we're here just to talk about the creative process of Tommy Ka and his work, and just hang and learn a little bit about what Tommy's been up to, especially when it comes to not just your creative practice, but how you find inspiration, and how your community and your friendships have nourished you throughout this entire time that we call life. That said, I would love to kind of get Tommy, if you want to start talking a little bit more about your work, where you're coming at, where you're at right now, and we'll just make it conversational. So feel free to chime in whenever. We want to make this casual. This is ultimately a conversation among friends. So if there's any questions in the chat, etc., just drop them and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks, Liz, for joining us, doing all of this. Everybody, yay, hello.
Well, you're my very favorite. I think you should, first and foremost, take everybody through the history of your life through this room design.
Should I? I'm gonna casually scroll over here. We'll start and I love this I'm such a ball of scrolling around. But we're starting with the room that you can get. This room with a bunch of Elvis memorabilia. It's one of the, I think the billiard room? I forget the names of these rooms. But this is something you'll find in Graceland, the house that Elvis bought in Whitehaven, where I grew up. That's Whitehaven's the neighborhood I grew up in, Memphis. So one of my many research trips that my bank is always concerned of, my spending habits, and it's did you get your identity stolen? It's because this is some suspicious activity, you bought tickets to Graceland, who's doing this, and it's I love it. But I'm got this picture of myself. This is me green screen into the pool room with Elvis, and somehow I managed to get the file for it, and I realized that people are using CS3 Photoshop, really old version of Photoshop, and had was looking at the file. I was oh wow, Elvis isn't even in this original picture. The guitar is photoshopped in even, and I really loved it. And at the same time, I was making pictures, self-portraits of myself as a cardboard cutout. So I was getting really tired of photographing myself. So while I was doing that, I was also trying to make a body of work where it's not a straight-on self-portrait. But also making a body of work that talks about the themes of representation and image, and it just was finally kind of fit well with trying to justify photographing Elvis tribute artists, which is the PC term for Elvis impersonators. And so everything kind of started out with this picture. It kind of really brought everything together because of, I didn't use Photoshop, but the cutout of myself, and then the kind of insertion, and the association around Elvis's image, it's himself. It kind of makes a lot of weird parallel sense to what I was doing with my self-portrait work. So, and a lot of it kind of started mining into new threads that I'm trying to work out at the moment. So
yeah, I'm so curious. So is this sort of correct me if I'm wrong, is this your first instance of kind of more experimental self-portraiture? Because I know that over the years you've definitely expanded that side of your practice, and was this sort of the jump, as you said, the jump off point to, I guess, different manipulations of your face and different techniques?
Yeah, I think it was, I always thought I was performing as a version of myself. So even further back, I think you'll see some of the, around this really elongated room, some of the kissing pictures. And that was like one of my earliest characters I kind of created. Originally, I think it was like somewhere between like those end credits you see of so-and-so as themselves or so-and-so as like their name, and I always kind of describe it that way, as like, while but these are self-portraits, they're not like so directly autobiographical, but they're a chance to do something like as Cindy Sherman would do with dress up or costume drama, or
can I roll us back a little bit? I was just, I love that you are talking about, like the origins of kind of your like Elvis project. I didn't really know that like this picture here was kind of the origin of all of it. But that says, like, what do you make art about? If somebody, who's not familiar with your work at all is like, here and like listening to you talk, like, how would you describe what you make art about?
I would describe it, I just did a workshop on elevator pitches, so it's like, I know it's hard. I make self-portraits about representation and our lack of images in regards to photographic history. When we talk about portraiture, for example, is loaded with a lot of historical inaccuracy or absence. And so I think of like the West or East meets West, the final spike in the transatlantic railroad, transcontinental railroad, and a lot of Chinese laborers, immigrants came through and worked on it, but they were pushed out of the picture for like the celebration of it. So I think that has been mostly the crux of part of my work, or understanding like my motivations, is to look at how photography has played into reinforcing how we depict ourselves. Even to this day, we do things that are coded, or we frame things that we have seen other photographers do. And I think we're at a space that, sorry, this is like, no, from an artist statement to a manifesto of, I think we're at a really great position to elaborate on those traditions while synthesizing something in that is unique to our experiences. And those experiences aren't often things written in history or our history canon or Western canon, because they're often excluding otherness. And to be a person of color, a queer photographer of color, as from the American South, it's quite confusing and very, fun for me to navigate these spaces that don't really correlate with each other.
No, Tommy, I've always I think that's what's always interested me so much about your work, because I do feel like you're in the simplest of terms, like reinserting yourself in these really Americana, like our perceived Americana like scenarios. And I think the ways you've done that have obviously like really morphed over time, from like this instance into like that background photo that I think had a lot of controversy this summer around it. I don't know if I can expand it, but I think it's locked. Oh, I got it.
Yeah, you can unlock anything within reasons, I guess. Please, I wasn't sure of the scale, but I figured that we could like unlock stuff and enlarge, so feel free.
Yeah, please. No, thanks around. That's why we're here.
Yeah, especially with this work too, where everything from the setting and like the color palette, this I feel like is almost like from my perspective as like an editor who needs to like sometimes get that elevator pitch and have like that one photo representation of your work like I feel like this is one of those perfect examples of all the themes in your work coming together. And, you know, I think it's funny, like I discovered your work at Marble Hill Camera Club, this, you know, like community run space for artists to talk about their long-term projects. And I was introduced to your series on the Elvis impersonators. What is like the more appropriate?
Tribute artists.
And then, you know, after like further research, like did a deep dive, and I feel like we stayed in conversation, and this ended up being like a cover of Vice in conversation with one of your mentors' work, William Eggleston. And I don't know, it's been a long journey for us.
Yeah, I think first off, I like definitely did not color correct a lot of those pictures when you saw them at the Marble Hill. We like went all the way to the Bronx, and it's amazing space that Patrice Hilmer had. And I'm glad that you saw that, because it was something like I wasn't really sure about. Because it's like I was mostly doing self-portrait work, but there was something really drawing about how many people continue Elvis's legacy of like really like dressing up. I think I'm more of an impersonator than these people who are tribute artists, who are like molding the way they sound and changing their appearances and altering and adding, and like even like not even it goes beyond imitation. Like it is art to me. There's something really special. And then the airport controversy happened on that, over that the same picture that has been around for a while. This was the Vice, one of the Vice covers, and then it was on a billboard in LA, I think in 2019 and before 2019, and it was just so strange to for something to cause such a stir on. Like I operate under the radar with Elvis tribute artists, and just like trying to have some reinforcing things that I was interested in, but I was really fucking tired of photographing myself. This is like even a picture of my cardboard cutout. Like this is an entirely a cutout in camera. And actually, if you scroll to the left, you'll see like the behind the scenes picture, and like that's the 4x5 that shot that. This was.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know. There's no lights or anything. I just like, sorry for the iPhone picture. And this is my setup. And it was something just walking in and finding these spaces that are very, I don't know, it reminds me of home. Like this was shot in a prop studio in Miami. And that was just like something of a happenstance, just walking in and then seeing this and being allowed to play in that space, and just like reminded me so much of being from home, being in the South.
Just everything from like the type of table to just again like the color palette. It's so cool. when I imagine you making this photo, I imagine you carrying around the cardboard cutout of yourself to different locations in like an IKEA tote bag and finding the right home for it.
I was gonna ask you like a little bit, you know, like this mention of like home, and then you know we kept mentioning the airport controversy, but you want to describe like what happened, what that controversy was for people who might not be familiar.
The Memphis airport renovated one of their concourse wings, gate areas, and part of the presentation, a reopening of the space, was to put up a lot of artists that are local or from Memphis or has some ties to Memphis, and it was like a year process of having being in negotiations with people in charge with it, and along as well as the airport. And I initially declined because I submitted pictures from my return to sender, the Kissing project, and I can point that out later. But there was a lot of pushback for they didn't want pictures hanging in an airport of same-sex people kissing. So much of that, sort of understood, and so I just politely declined, and then they came back to like, what if you showed these? And there's some hesitation, but one of the things that I like to teach about, it's like, oh, always have a contract and sign a contract and read through a contract, and in the midst, you know, like we don't really, I don't think any of us have like an assistant or someone helping us, so it's like, fine, I'll do it. And then to make a long story short, is the installation of the collection, it's permanent collection that the airport, it's part of the airport collection of art. An amazing list of artists from people I went to school with, or my professors at Memphis College of Art, no longer exist. And we hung this this large scale blue picture. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna circle everything because this is just so fun, and I didn't let go of the shift key, so now there's a line on over us. And then some Elvis fans like saw the piece. It's at gate B10, by the way, and the airport, a lot of people are in charge, were spooked by the comments and just took my work down without telling me. And we had conversations about it between, and just where I'm saying I'm just declined to make another third iteration of it because they proposed that I should make another piece, and it's like, I don't feel like putting my work into something that just you know, to take my work down. It was really just kind of aggressive. I feel like is a polite word for it. And they also didn't expect me to say something, so I saw, like, they sent me the press release and went like definitely opposite of what was discussed in our meeting, and that I said something, and the response of support was just really overwhelming and amazing, and exactly what the point of the collection was supposed to be, is showcase this. A lot of great artists have done amazing work. There's not a lot of spaces for artists to show, and and within 48 hours the work was back up. It was kind of already experienced. I've experienced it. It's censorship. The removal of it is still with me. And I think about this piece way differently now. Like, of course, I like that it did create these conversations, and at the same time that it's like, personally, I don't like this piece anymore. And
that's so interesting, because I was going to say, like, in my mind, like, the only silver lining is like sort of a live discussion about, again, some of the themes you talk about in your work, like all of this erasure of, like, you know, that you're kind of trying to like combat with inserting yourself and like showing your own self-portraiture. Like, when you do it live in a space with people, like, I think it brought up a lot of tension I don't think you could have predicted. And I think the support was great, but I think it kind of, it showed in a way, like maybe sometimes like how your work is received in the South still, like how people perceive it. And I just think it's an interesting layer to, I know, a photo that has been with you for a long time. And I think, like, was that your first instance of experiencing censorship in that way?
Yeah, I think I've been asking around other artists, like, if they ever, and the consensus was like, no, like, the censorship doesn't really happen, but it has. It definitely has. I just was not keen on it, or like super aware that that would be something that would happen. But someone like Zora Murph, who gone through a lot of very similar experiences, is actually across like the river from me in Arkansas there. So pointing through y'all, but that's the direction of Arkansas. And he was the only one that I knew that was censored in a way more aggressive manner. I think.
But in a way, like not in the same way, but in a space that isn't necessarily like always set up for art. Like it's not a traditional like space to view art. And I feel like because of that, you get a really different audience that I don't think can I don't know, like the context is totally different.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me is like it kind of ties in back about like what the point that you said about how it still feels very shocking to see like otherness, especially when you're like Asian, or I feel like Blackness is often portrayed in like, you know, pictures of like Americana, depictions of the American era, but I feel like Asianness is not as expected, especially when it's a concept of the South. So yeah, it just kind of like ties back to that, especially because if you think about it, the image itself is not that surprising.
Yeah,
like the image itself is like kind of tame and like very, you know, like
beautiful, like
mysterious.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's like a kind of a funny picture if you think about it. You know,
I think it is.
Yeah.
How do you recalibrate from that, Tommy? Like, I feel like one of my questions I wanted to talk to you about, you know, because the past couple of months, I feel like we've had a lot of big wins for your career and a lot of exposure and a lot of opportunities to create work throughout different residencies. And I want to talk about that. But I also want to talk about, like, this isn't necessarily a rejection, but like, how do you kind of recover and recalibrate from rejections in addition to, you know, those moments where people are actually like supporting and shining a light on your work? Because I know as an artist, like that's the number one thing that we all have to deal with, is that not everybody is going to receive your work always in the way that you expect them to. So can you speak a little bit on that?
Yeah, I'm going to move y'all over to this next one too. Like, just for fun, like, because it has amazing.
Do you want me to, I think you control the scroll.
Am I controlling the scroll? I control the scroll. Oh no, this is too much power for me.
You tell me where you want to go.
Did I move everyone to no loud music, no drugs? Do people just...
Yeah.
Yes, there we go.
I love like the sign for slow is just there, and it's like, yeah, because we all, I mean, it's, I think just to allow ourselves to experience sadness and experience rejection is definitely something we should be openly talking about. I have a Tumblr, tommyka.tumblr.com, and it just has been where I've been posting my rejection letters, because no one sends us physical rejection letters anymore.
Oh my gosh.
I have one. Yeah.
I feel like they all are like, I'm so curious the language between all of them.
Yeah.
Repurposed.
I think so. I even like, depending on the organization, and I started posting there because, well, one, no one was really paying attention to what I was doing. I mean, there's definitely us, and we were like in the same group of friends, and we were always checking in on each other and what we're doing. And it was another thing to operate in the art world overall, where I've been being told that my work doesn't matter because it's confusing, and it's like they were trying to, a gallery told me to just stick with making work about being Asian or being queer because those are sellable. Those are the words that are being told to me. And it's, I think just to be incredibly sad and also kind of angry, and how specifically with the airport controversy, like I was really exhausted because suddenly there's TV, CNN, everyone was just calling about that. Like, Gregory Crutzen called me because he saw it on Pitchfork, and it was just the most unexpected place for him to find out, and just calls me because I was just finishing a gig at Yale at the time. So I was around students who were very well aware of the situation, so I had to talk about it and almost immediately. And so I think at times I just crying. I literally was crying because it's just exhaustion, and I'm just not someone that makes work that is controversial. Like it's fun for me. It's trying to tap into things deeper that is about our past, which essentially is what we're all fucking doing. That photography is just like these time traveling portals for us. And with the past, it's always the baggage of dealing with that.
Yeah.
And we're all dealing with the past in some ways that we're not even aware of. But back to it, it's just I allowed myself to be really open and to talk about that situation, because I don't see other artists talking about being censored. I don't see other artists talking about rejection. And because no one was paying attention to me, I think it's an entitlement and privilege for me to say, to say these things. It's my responsibility, because the airport controversy specifically in Memphis is indicative of people in charge dictating what art is and what art can't be.
Yeah.
And the removal of my work was really reinforcing those things. And the issue I had was it worked out for me. Like, I can't complain about that experience being very terrible for me, because I've like joined a gallery. I got picked up by an agent, and a lot of great things happen. It's like someone tries to clean the wine stain and they just make the wine bigger, wine stain bigger. But the issue I had was that how do we talk about this? How do we give this to students? We're teachers, we're educators too, and how do we stop this from happening to other artists who do not have the same network? So I started to do panels, and I did some workshops last week while I'm here at Crosstown Arts in Memphis, an artist residency. Everyone should look into it. It's apply, it's amazing. And trying to redistribute. I'm so angry. I'm like doing stuff pro bono, just so like, here's the information, here's how you can do this. And also trying to teach them how to do like CVs and resumes, and inviting the airport, trying to have a conversation with them, but they haven't called me back. So yeah.
I think that's so important though, because none of this is particularly straightforward. It's not like when you graduated from art school, you had like a kind of guideline for how you were gonna develop your career as an artist. And like, you know, I think you are somebody that I again feel like over the years has really applied and worked so hard to you know, get residencies and make spaces for yourself. And I think being able to give back a little bit of that information and process is like, it's so important. I don't want to be like negative the whole time. So I'm going to direct it back to like when, you know, outside of like, again, those rejections and like, you know, censorship, when you do get that acceptance letter or that space or that grant, like, I'm curious, like, especially, I mean, this year, I know you got the Next Step Award. Like, can you kind of talk a bit about, like, when you received that award or, like, that support, how do you allocate it and, like, what decisions do you make with what to do with it as an artist? Like, do you have, like, kind of a backlog of projects that you're, like, wanting to develop? Like, yeah, just talk me through it a little bit, because I know you're in the middle of a lot of different long-term projects, and I just want to hear everything that you're working on.
Oh my
with
gosh.
like this much earned and like support. So
I just sometimes feel like I don't deserve this attention.
Oh my God.
I mean, I know a lot of us feel the same way.
Yeah,
like
it's
the airport was
syndrome.
very too much
Yeah.
focus on me. It's like, look at the other artists in the show. Enough about me.
Yeah.
A CNN article comes out. It's like, damn it. But it's, yeah, I think
People love spectacle and they love focusing on.
Yeah,
Honestly.
Yeah, it's really hard to articulate like the process of having to look at mailing lists, to look at open calls, and to kind of just like look around and like what other people are doing, and what other artists and photographers like. Oh, well, I want to do something editorial. I want to do something commission, and some of it isn't very logical because it's just I have a lot of rejection letters because I applied to the same things over and over.
Yeah.
I think I applied to Foam 7 times, Foam Talent 7 times, and I got it. I think in 2020 or 2020.
We did. I remember we like were carving pumpkins on the roof because it was like still like, I mean, we're still obviously in the pandemic, but this was like October 2020 when you told me you finally got it. So,
yeah, I think it was just, and it was like a combination of a lot of things. I kind of like was in before, like in 2019, I started showing a lot more in 2018 even, and things kind of didn't really pick up for me. I was just still making work and still justifying a lot of my work to people. And I think at some point I decided that I was a little like just too weird for people and was trying to find ways to exist in my own bubble.
Yeah.
And inadvertently, like I had a backlog of all these pictures and interests and ideas. And
I wouldn't say too weird. I feel like the feedback is more around, we kind of touch upon it a little bit. It's like, you're making art that's like funny and not about being sad and being Asian, like, I don't know. There's just like expectations around genres that you're partaking in your art making practice. That's probably not what the marketplace and the community kind of expects. And that, it's just fucked up. Sorry, swearing.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to swear, but yeah.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
PG-13.
I know, but I do agree. It obviously brings up a lot about like how a lot of spaces, a lot of white spaces, like perceive like the output of like artists of color and like what are those expectations? Like, I feel like oftentimes I feel like I can only assume that you feel like you have to explain yourself, or a lot of artists feel like they have to explain themselves, so their identity and their work.
Women, artists, like non-binary, queer, people of color, we're always having to explain ourselves in the room like all the time. And I think that some things like we should say those things out loud as educators, as like people who are in the field. And I just say field because it just sounds cooler. Making pictures in the field. And I think that was what benefited me the most, is how candid I've been over the years. And like I was, and like a lot of y'all like knew how like down like it could be to do something and it doesn't work out, or people just like don't know how to make of it. And that was my headspace going into 2020, going into lockdown. And then suddenly the solo shows in 2019 stopped, and like I wasn't able to show and make work, but it gave me enough time to calibrate with those conversations during lockdown, to rest, to make work in reaction to this thing that no one has ever experienced before. And there was a lot of like balancing issues with that. And I think of even interacting with a couple of curators and editors and just being candid about like meeting with galleries and the results of it, or like the dismissiveness of like, and I had like a Magnum photographer that just like found out I was from Memphis. It was like so dismissive of like my work. It was like, oh, you make work in Memphis? No one can do that after Eggleston's. Like, there's way cooler people.
Yeah.
And, like, Eggleston's not the only person. And like, it's like, why would someone with an agency like Magnum caliber say that to someone that's younger, like clearly younger? Like, look at us. We're but
oh, that is so both surprising and not surprising. Like, after this, like after this one photographer has done it, why bother making any work about an entire state?
Just like
city.
And even I think even region, like he was just dismissing all of like Southern work. And I think that was something, all the combination of that. And suddenly, like December, I get an email about like being shortlisted for the Next Step Award, and it's like, what?
Is this in winter of like 2021? Like after all this new work?
Yeah, before the airport controversy, and before like getting like teaching in person for the first time in Parsons after a year away, and trying to like figure out my next move, because I was just in a loop, and just like was okay, save some money. I have some like nest egg to make some work, but I'm kind of been in the same boat for a while.
Yeah.
And the next step of work just really came out of nowhere. Like just it's nomination, and like I have no idea what I did other than like whine about that. I wasn't whining. I just am very self-deprecating, and it just allowed me to do way more stuff with a grant, a small grant. And well, it's not small, it's a substantial grant that has allowed me to hire some people to help me out and fulfill things that I've been stuck on. And also like going really crazy on the targeted ads on Instagram. Like I like had like a feature graph, like a bubble gram with the laser blocks. I should have put that in here, but it's like a glass block with a picture etched by lasers inside of it. And
I know. Oh my God. They're at every wonderful mall kiosk.
And I got to make one, and then
was
like, Art, what is this? Tommy, are you okay? Sharon, go away. It's fine.
That's so good though, because you probably get to. You're not as limited, so you can kind of do different experiments and see what works and what doesn't, and not have to obviously worry about the cost as much. That's really.
It's amazing what happens when artists are supported and have access to resources. So
lots of eBay.
Lots of eBay.
This is like
kind of bono workshops too in exchange, because I can't I have to do good stuff or redistribute all that good energy, because it's like I want my communities and I want my friends to be elevated as well. So I think that's just something part of like trying to maintain that space for myself.
Yeah, it's kind of tied to it. I know we're about to be out of time.
What?
I feel like, it's only supposed to be 45 minutes, guys.
People are just joining us.
I only asked like 2 questions.
I'm sorry.
No, no, I would love to.
I can do a flash quick through your questions, because I didn't finish answering your last one.
Alex, you're not wrapping us up, are you?
No, not right now.
Are you tying it back?
I'm tying it back. I just wanted to talk us through, about your maybe like meaningful friendships and in your creative and personal life, right? Because I think you talked about this a little bit about your support network. You're getting institutional support now, and that's like enabling you to do all of these, projects in a bigger way. But like, creatively in your personal and professional life, like, do you want to give us like a couple of examples of like connections and friendships that have been very, very meaningful for you?
Yeah, I'm always indebted with the Egglestons, because I just showed up one day and they kind of just like, oh, well, he's here. And like, it's always been funny to try to like hang, because it's like, I just want to hang out and not like, like just be fanboy, but I'm just a fan.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the work really is so important. But so is Ernest Withers, and so is Sally Mann's work in the South, so is Christian Berry. And so it's really amazing to have that connection with the Egglestons, who've been very supportive. From the Yale panel, it's like Laurie Simmons just has been so amazing and continuously kept in touch with me, and was completely worried like during the rise of API, like hate crimes in the area, and she just like, please be careful. And then someone like Liz, and someone like Liz, it's like, who's really down with just looking at like 500 pictures. I sent you 500, like a lot of pictures to like help me sort this, and because I needed an editor. I'm not the strongest editor for my own work, but it's something amazing having to look towards friends who have that mindset that can actually do these things that I can't do. And that's, I think, part of why it's important to have those kinds of connections and to maintain them and to upkeep with them, because it's just like I could be staring at the same thing and not really see what I'm trying to say, and people who don't know particularly the reasoning of these pictures that I make will see these deeper connections. And like that editorial, like the New Yorker story for Ben Orkey was just started a lot of commission editorial work, like, and that's because I asked like Lisa Gonzalez and Liz and other editors, friends of mine, to just like look at these pictures and spend their time with it. And it's I don't know, I think it's really indicative of having a sense of community, and I'm especially someone who's super socially awkward. I just act like I don't.
Yeah. I mean, who isn't socially awkward after the past 2 years anyways? But I mean, I think it's so cool for me to see where your work has developed, even in like the past like 5 or 6 years that I've been, you know, working with you and following it closely. And
having us across the way, just to speed up.
Where am I?
Oh no. Oh no.
Where should I go?
Let's go all the way to the right to this really crazy space, because I think there's some questions.
I love this too. Is this where you want to end up or here?
Yeah, let's end up here, because people can walk around in the room afterwards, right? And like just play around with stuff. So welcome to New Lynn's Chinese. This is off Pauline and Memphis, but
yeah, Tommy, were you like, I know you were like, were you starting a series on like photographing like shrines or like throughout the South? Like, I feel like I've like heard of so many of the beginnings of amazing series for you, and I know that's just like one of them. Like, yeah,
I think with the Next Step Award, so just to finish answering that question from earlier, that ties in with what you're asking now, I think is...
What did you apply with versus like what you are hoping to edit from it? Like, I'm just... Yeah,
I think the short list ended up, we were asked to submit like pictures that could be a book, and I just sent them a mix of my mom's work. That she gifted me and has no explanation for it whatsoever. She just refuses to talk about it. Canada 1984 and the cardboard cutout work with the mask and pictures of the southern landscape, and it was just like a mix of that. And Leslie did this. I'm working with Leslie Martin of Aperture, and who's amazing. And in December, we just hit the ground running of like pull stuff from inspiration. I got to hang out in the library. I'd like never done this kind of bookmaking before. So Leslie is so amazing to walk me through it. And just, I gave her it kind of like the same thing of like, just based on what I submitted and what they were interested in. And she just saw these threads, and after a while, and we're working with Studio Lynn, who designed for Oz's book, and some amazing other artist books. So very lucky to work with.
Annika told me about that experience. That's awesome.
So,
that's gonna be great.
Thank you. It's but it like allowed me to tease out a lot of things that Leslie think was interesting, and then like part of the southern landscape and my work with photographing my family, I started ending up with pictures of shrines, and I have like hoarding tendencies. Soft hoarding is what I'm calling it.
Me too.
I'm gonna turn my computer around, but like I'm working on a photo mosaic.
Oh my gosh!
Pictures of the sky. You'll see like some other crazy stuff back here too. That's an image on fleece material.
Oh, I remember you showing the process of making that, and you tried to like I
finally did it.
You moved it up, like you were trying to capture the light on it. Oh my god,
it's like I could have just like moved the damn thing, the entire thing. I'm waiting for 30 minutes for the sun to go away, and it's like I could have just moved the piece the whole time. So I'm really great. But it's a lot of those like ended up pronouncing things, and it allows me to explore further on subjects like and so many weird connections because of the book. And I think I have to write one more thing and not a writer, so that's like the most intimidating
to sit
thing.
down.
But we're hoping that it will come out if everything goes well, February 2023, which is also coinciding with my solo show at the Baxter Street at Camera Club of New York,
where it began. Well, not began, but you know. I know that space has been very important to you. I
mean, it's like Alfred Stieglitz, everyone, like there's one of the oldest like photography organizations, and they're doing really great work, and especially being in Chinatown and trying to help with programming, or me being really demanding, it's like, you should do this. And they're being really receptive to these wacky ideas. Like, this is definitely going to be a centerpiece for the show.
That makes so much sense, because it seems like I can only get a glimpse of it, but it does seem like a culmination of a lot of the techniques that you've been kind of, again, like fiddling with over the years. And I feel like it's become more and more layered. So I'm so excited to see it in its space. Like, it looks like the way your photographs present in a gallery space, but you've done it and photographed it for like a single image. And that's really cool to see.
Thanks. I think it's I mean, with y'all and everyone in my community that just have been propping me up and helping me understand what I'm doing, and just word of mouth talking about my work has been very, like, thank you guys. Like, this is, I think, the result of being able to talk about my work in this capacity, this really cool room, and even to be entrusted, like having a seal of approval with other people who are curious about what I'm doing. And it's very chaotic. I always think it's very chaotic, but also very I just want to have fun and experiment a lot more and thinking about it. So as much as the cutout work and my collaborations with my mom, like, I think a lot in a broader sense of how we've been experiencing things and been thinking about the community. And what has been there inherently in photography, like returning to photography to make David Hockney-esque photo montages. Are we grouped together? That's so cool.
Yeah, I put this together. That way it's easier. I don't know why I didn't think about it. It's okay.
I was going to ask that too. I mean, this is the picture that Liz commissioned me. I'm going to hold down shift. And it's, I don't know, it was something, just a culmination of like what I've been been thinking about at that time. It was last January, I think.
Yeah.
And just trying to explore new threads that have already existed in my earlier work that I haven't really considered until lockdown, until developing it in the last 2 years. And with the residencies, each one is like very been amazing to support me in ways of, okay, you want to do this, like I just did some laser cuts or cutouts on through a laser thingy, and
that's awesome.
I think the stuff is so 2 years. It's been 2 years in the making of like slowly pasting stuff onto cardboard and trying not to cut myself, and now like this process is being done within like an hour, and it's already
oh my gosh. Yeah, I know that we're like running out of time, but I am curious, like how you have like adapted your personal style to an editorial commission, and like what has that given back to you? Because I think for me, when I was working as a photo editor, I always want commissions to be a sort of just like a jump off point, or like a thread within the artist's work that I'm commissioning. And I'm curious, like, if that's helped you in your own practice, like the kinds of commissions you've been getting. And yeah, can you just talk a little bit about how you shift your practice to sort of interpret an assignment? And then we'll do like a quick fire round.
Yeah. I think it is just entrusting me. Oh wow, we're over here. Hi. Sorry, I'm not sure what is jumping around, but we're gonna just scroll with it. We're gonna scroll with it, right? I think it's just me. Hello, hi. Just entrusting the editors to do their research beforehand and then approaching different kinds of photographers and artists to fulfill what someone else is thinking, which I've been meeting a lot of people who are working in the same themes or subject matter even, in like my work with like exploring immigration and Chinese settlers in the American South has been my recent research. And there's so much, I'm trying to speed this up so much. And but like trust in being able, I'm an artist that I'm so uncertain all the time. Like I'm just never comfortable or okay with my own work, because I think it just is, it's called process. And it's amazing learning how to navigate that and to trust in myself, to have that kind of confidence and like, okay, well, I do these certain things and I do it well. And these groups of people have also trusted me to do something fairly well. And honestly, it's just the interest of what I think the confusion of my work beforehand has played in my favor because of how a lot of different contexts I could touch upon.
And technique. That is really inspiring to me, because I feel like, again, like so often we feel pressured to put ourselves and like our technique in a box, and like I don't know, it's really inspiring for me to hear you kind of talk about how it's coming full circle and you're able to like just use that to your benefit. It's awesome.
It's part of like learning to do studio visits, learning to do to have people over and have those conversations. No, I don't have to be comfortable with what I'm presenting or showing, but there's a lot of trust that comes out of like talking to you and like working things out, and like I'm crazy and like no, and you're seeing something different. And it's really important, because it's just how much of it is so much of it in our heads, and that we are very capable artists that are interested in photography or interested in what the camera does. And I think that's just a reminder. I get questions like, I'm stuck on the subject matter. It's like, I don't know, it just sounds so cis male gender of me to say. It's just to remember to have fun, that this is your work, what you do, no matter if you're a photographer or an artist in painting and sculpture, it's to have fun. I think art should be that way. The process can be stressful, it can be all of that, but we're doing this for ourselves. Like, we definitely are doing art for ourselves and not for whatever people say. Yes, galleries are helping you. Yes, there are people that are supporting and going to prop you up. But at the end of the day, we're doing our work for ourselves. It's the audience. Who's our audience is like, I mean, whoever wants to look at it is audience. And I'm just more concerned that regardless of being financially strapped or a little flush with cash or having resources available to me and not available to me, the thing that's been consistent is being able to make pictures regardless of the situation. Not because it's being asked of me, but because that's what I do. It's what you and I, what all of us are doing, is being being artists, trying to make sense of the world and to have fun. This is our work. This is what we're seeing. This is our experiences. We are doctors. We are, well, not at that extreme, but we are professors. We are
You're a doctor. You're doctoring especially now, especially with that work behind you. That's the work of a skilled surgeon.
That's the work of and also people who are soft hoarders. So.
All right, last question.
Yeah. Sorry, Alex.
No, all good. I love it. I'm just trying to kind of be mindful of everybody's time. But what gives you hope, Tommy?
I'm reminded a lot of the response after the airport, and just all these folks, friends of mine, family, people I haven't talked to in years, and strangers are just coming out to support the coming against the censorship that has happened. And I think that is something amazing to see. That is community. That is what we should all be striving for, is that feeling to bring each other up instead of competing and being in the rat race, or being in this system that has come from the old ways. And we don't have to do those things anymore, that we could come together and support one another, and to do it because this is what a community should feel like, is supporting each other, and not just coming in and like taking and not like understanding. Like, there's a lot of empathy that comes out of it. I mean, I stopped myself there. It's just I'm very thankful for a lot of the care and empathy that really comes from that community response. That gives me hope that that stuff is still there, and that was a lot of people. It was a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful, and I want that to happen to other artists. I want that to happen to other people, not just me. Like, we all deserve to feel supported and access to the resources that I definitely experienced a lack of. And I'm just incredibly thankful for just everybody that has helped me and supported me, and just really hope that I can return that in some way.
You already are, Tommy. And
yeah.
Well, I just want to, thank you so much for chatting. I could talk to you for, obviously, for hours.
I know.
We could
definitely. We could just keep drink and like start drinking. It is 5 p.m. anyway. But Colleen and Jessica, I feel like if everybody's in New York again, we all just grab drinks.
Especially we're going to be teaching, I'm not sure where all of our classes are at Parsons, but let's definitely grab a drink after on Tuesdays, and everyone here is invited. Drink, of course, but also we also do
bubble tea, tea in general, coffee, non-alcoholic beverages,
yes,
sweet tea.
I'm very about non-alcoholics beverages right now. Seltzers, spicy water. In the South.
Yeah. Well, this room will stay up even after this talk, so feel free to roam around. I think some of us might jump off though, because I have to go to another thing. But thank you so much again, Tommy.